We interrupt our usual programming to bring you another story time. This one involves dead cats, a leaky roof, crime, and way too many Christmas trees. I told you in a previous story time about the house that Mark and I rented. What I didn't tell you was how much I hated that house. It had a flat roof that leaked. It had plaster walls that grew mold. No matter how much you bleached them or cleaned them or painted them, that mold would come back. And the plaster peeled, the windows didn't open, and there was drafts that would come in any number of places. And the kitchen floor was it was linoleum, but you could feel it give way under your feet. It felt like you were about to crash through to the basement that was underneath where the water heater was. It also had this intersection. It wasn't actually a hallway. It was like where two rooms kind of came together. And on the floor there was this metal grating. It was the top of the heater. The heater was underneath the house in the crawl space underneath the house. And so if you walked on it with your bare feet, you would burn your feet. So it was warm in the winter time underneath the house. So because of this heater, cats would come and crawl under the house and they would just die. They would die and they would decompose, okay? So we'd have this smell of death from underneath the house. So we'd see a cat kind of stagger across the street and we're like, oh no, here comes another one. We even named him Dead Cat Bob. So it was like Dead Cat Bob would come every winter and die underneath our house. And then Mark would have to cover himself up and crawl under there with all the black widow spiders and get this dead cat, pull it out so our house didn't smell like death. So yeah, I hated living there. I couldn't wait to move there. Every year I was like, I am not spending another Christmas in this house. But one year led to the next. And then after we got 2 dogs, we had 2 kids. And so pretty soon we've been in this house for 10 years. This is the house where I started writing the Sammy Keys series. So Sammy lives in a rough part of town and she sees all sorts of crime going on in her neighborhood. Basically, I would just look out the blinds and kind of take what was going on out there and weave it into a story about something Sammy was doing in this town. So this whole kind of area and the environment had a big influence on the Sammy Keys series. This is also where I started putting hope in the mail. We had this little mailbox that was on the inside of this porch area outside the front door. And that's where the whole idea of submitting your work and sending it out there so that somebody could say yes to you. That's where that whole concept came from. So I wrote a Sammy Keys book and I sent it out. I wrote another Sammy Keys book, I sent it out. All this went through this whole idea of hope in the mail. In this house is where I wrote the first 6 Sammy Keys books. And it wasn't until I had completed the first 4 that I got my book deal for the Sammy Keys series with Random House. It wasn't until after those 10 years had passed and after we moved away that I started to recognize that I probably would never have created Sammy Keys if I hadn't lived in that environment. If I had lived in some swanky gated community, I would not have had this scrappy girl going around the rough part of town solving crimes. But because I lived there, there was the Sammy Keys, and there are 18 books now in a series. So I don't know if any of that would have happened if I hadn't lived in that little house that I hated. So, okay, years go by, and the house is condemned, good, and we hear that it's going to get bulldozed. And so I'm like, I want to go see it. And so we drove back into town and we witnessed them bulldozing this house. And I started crying. It was the strangest thing. I hated this house so much. But now I could see with distance and time what that house had actually given me and, my career. And so we were driving away. And we were talking about the house and the years that we lived there and all that stuff. And we're about half an hour away. And I realized I want to go back. I want to go back and I want to get the mailbox that was on the porch. So instead of driving back, Mark does a sensible thing and he makes a call and he makes another call. And turns out that it's long gone. I can't get the mailbox. But what I understand about that mailbox is that it's not the mailbox itself. It's the hope that flowed through it that was important. And the takeaway from this is, I don't know where you are in your life, or what you're experiencing. But if you're experiencing hard times or rough times, or you wish you were in a different, better place, realize that where you are right now is building your character. It's broadening your experiences. It's giving you something to write about. And please remember that to help you through your hard times, keep hope in your heart. And the best way I know to do that is to put hope in the mail. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed Storytime with Wendelin. Remember to dream big, work hard, don't give up, and please keep writing.